Hi, everybody. Well, welcome to week 4 of our class. And I definitely appreciate your discussions this week on the SAMR model. Um, I I love teaching the SAMR model, and there's a few different models out there. Like everything else, I do agree with the SAMR model. I think it's a great model to look at when you're trying to use technology in the classroom. The thing I like about it is that it's not that substitution's wrong. It's actually very good. I mean, that's a great place to start, and that's where you're going to be a lot of times is in that substitution. The idea of getting above that line, though, with modification and redefinition, that's a part where we can try to work towards. Well, you'll all be relieved to know that I did get my daughter's apron tied on her. That is what she was coming down here wanting. So we're all good there. But what I was saying with, it's okay to be at substitution, but we really want to just strive to get to the modification and redefinition. And you don't live there, and not everything can be at that level. But I think it's our job as educators now, 21st century, to take our kids there, because as some of you kind of got to in your discussion, you know, we're preparing these kids for jobs that don't yet exist. So I think it's our job to make sure that we're showing them the tools that are out there, and forcing them to start using those. Kind of looking through some of the things that were said this week. I like that a lot of you brought up that this stuff's a process. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the LA Unified School District and their iPad rollout a couple of years ago. Basically they dumped hundreds of thousands of iPads out into the district, I think it wasn't quite implemented the way it should have been, and it ended up kind of failing in a lot of aspects. The professional development is most definitely needed when you're rolling out one-to-one or even just more devices. So yeah, it's a process. It's not as easy as buying a bunch of Chromebooks and handing them out and say, good luck. That's a pretty surefire way for it not to work. But you guys were quoting find that technology that supports what you're doing. You don't have to base a lesson around this technology tool. You don't have to, okay, today we're using Canva or whatever the case may be. But you'd be surprised how many of the great lessons that you guys have created that you could find a tool that maybe we've seen in this class, you've messed around with, that all of a sudden would push that level of your lesson up. Somebody brought up talking about like adults with their phones at meetings. I tell teachers all the time, sometimes they can be the worst ones. We don't want cell phones in our classroom. We don't want the kids being on their phones. But what happens at a faculty meeting? Every single one of those teachers' phones sitting on the table, right? You have to be engaging, especially when you're in a one-to-one environment. When a student has a Chromebook in front of them, an iPad, a phone in front of them, your lesson and you need to be engaging, or else, yeah, the internet can also be pretty engaging. I think a couple things that I've seen when I've done professional development for schools that have gone one-to-one is not giving students an option to do something on paper. If you're wanting to utilize the technology at that modification redefinition level, if you scan in a worksheet and then you tell the students, well, you can either you can go ahead and do this by pencil, or if you want to do it on your Chromebook, you can. They'll pick the pencil every time because it's easier. It's what they're used to. They'll probably get it done quicker. So that's where, if that worksheet's required for the assignment, then have them do that. But then maybe there's an addition to it that utilizes Google Maps. And that's the part of the project that has to be done on the device. If you force them into using the device, something that they couldn't previously do without the device, that's where you're going to get the engagement out of kids. I always like giving a math example too, because I think a lot of times when I've done trainings for schools, the math department is always sometimes math can just be harder, and the question comes up, well, how do kids do formulas on a Google Doc? There's not an easy way to do it. And my answer to that is you don't need to do formulas on a Google Doc. The formulas can be done right here. Okay, what you can do though is, instead of just following the paragraph text that's in the book that the kids then have to put the numbers into, what if the kids research local gyms in the area and how much they cost, and they have to figure out what their best value over the course of a year would be? Okay, or what if you turn it into a vacation and students have to go research cars, they have to look up prices of gas mileage, and determine what the most cost-effective way to get to point A to point B. Should they fly? Should they rent this type of car? Should they take the family minivan? All the math part of that can be done on paper. But if they're researching all that stuff that's real in their world, it might make just a little bit more sense to them, and they're going to take some more ownership in it. So that's kind of where I give an example of, okay, how do we use technology, like in a math class, for example, where it might not be as obvious. So that's it for this week, kind of discussion wrap up. Again, great job, you guys. You guys did awesome. Great replies. I did not see any drive-by replying, so that was awesome. Drive-by commenting. Keep working on things like the DIGO project. I'm going to open up a new project for you today, specifically about a Google tool. So we're being very specific to Google now. And you guys will have to reach out to me and let me know what you want to do on that. But keep working on the things that are out there. The reflection paper, just have that in the back of your mind. Remember, as kind of I say every week, is don't let this stuff catch up to the very end. Most of you are doing a great job on that. I'm going to be looking at the wiki site over the course of this week, and hopefully have some grades in there this week for you. And I'll let you guys know how you did on those. But yeah, as always, keep up the hard work, and I appreciate you guys giving me your best efforts so far.